Hey everyone, welcome to another WizKids paint event with Realmsmith and Vallejo. This time we're going to be painting something really awesome. It's not quite lion, it's not quite human, it's not quite dragon, but it is all three. Tonight we are painting the Manticore. Strap in, here we go. Now we're going to start by base coating the entire Manticore body using heavy ochre. Heavy ochre is of course an extra opaque paint which should go on in one coat. We're going to do the legs, the arms, the torso, as well as the arms that kind of extend along the inside of the wings, and then most of the tail as well. Next, we're going to go ahead and base coat the mane in heavy sienna, and we're going to get nice and close to the face because we're going to come in with heavy skin tone after, and we want to make sure that there is no lines between the seam where the mane touches the face. Then to base coat the skin, we're going to use heavy skin tone, and we're going to be a bit more careful now than we have been so far because now we're painting adjacent to the areas that we painted heavy sienna. We're going to go ahead and we're going to base coat the face in heavy skin tone. We're also going to go ahead and kind of line the bottom of the paws in heavy skin tone. This will give the illusion that there is kind of skin on the bottom of its paws. We're going to do that on that one as well as this one. We're also going to do it on the back paws as well. Now that we've used the heavy skin tone to base the flesh areas, we're going to go ahead and use tan to base coat all of the wings. What we're going to try and do closer to the end here, we actually had heavy sienna kind of on the furry area on the inside of the wing, so we're going to try and blend that a little bit by just stippling it along that area to blend it up into kind of the sinewy, sort of fleshy area of that wing. We're also going to do the same on the outside as well. And the last bit of base coating that needs to be done is all the spikes need to be base coated in bone white. That is all the spikes that come out from the mane, the spikes on the end of the wings, also all the claws as well will be bone white, and all the teeth. And we're going to do that across the entirety of the miniature. Okay, once we're done with the bone white, we're just going to dilute a little bit of sepia wash, and we're going to add sepia wash across the entire miniature. For those that are new to painting, washes basically add depth to any area with a lot of texture. So along the wings here, you can see we basically brush some on, and then we move it along the surface until it rests in the recesses. We don't want it to pull too much because it will clog the detail, but just enough to get some shadow and some contrast. And we're going to do that across the entire miniature in all the areas that we've already base coated. As our first highlight, we're going to take dwarf skin, and we're going to do a dry brush. For those of you that are new to painting, a dry brush is basically you load your brush up with paint, wipe most of it off on a paper towel, and then you're going to go against the grain or against the texture, opposite of the way that it's kind of running, and just lightly brush your brush onto the surface so that dry residue from the brush is deposited on the highest detail, kind of bringing out that detail like that. Our next dry brush will be filthy brown, and we're going to use that across the body of the Manticore. And again, we're just catching all of the fur texture, trying not to hit any of the spikes that exist, and this will just bring up that kind of mid-tone again. We're also being careful to avoid the hands or paws of the Manticore as well. Once we're done with that filthy brown, we're actually going to use bone white, and we're going to dry brush that. And it's actually going to be a bit of a dry brush mixed with an overbrush, but we're going to use that for the underbelly of the Manticore. As you can see, we're just carefully brushing that onto the surface so that we lighten the edge of the stomach area on the bottom and along the back of the legs as well, like that. Last highlight on the fur, we're going to go ahead and use pale yellow and be very sparse with this. But we're basically just going to highlight kind of the highest areas of the muscle tone and texture by using a smaller dry brush and just really hitting kind of the peaks. So that is the elbows and the haunches up here, and just kind of catching those with that lighter pale yellow as a final highlight, like so. So we're going to take slightly diluted dwarf skin, and by slightly diluted I mean just adding a little bit of water, and we're just going to accentuate some of the higher kind of creases and folds on the Manticore's face. We're leaving kind of the darker color that's under it in the recesses, and this is our kind of mid-tone highlight that we're adding to the face to kind of bring out some of those details. We're hitting the bridge of the nose, the chin, the lip, and we're going to continue to do that across the entire face. We're also going to kind of highlight the tips of the fingers, or the paws rather, like that, and then also on the lower area of the pads on the skin for his paws as well. After we're done the mid-tone of dwarf skin, we're going to take cadmium skin and we're going to add one final kind of extreme highlight with the cadmium skin color. We're going to take it and put it on kind of the temple area, on the cheeks, the tip of the nose, the lip here, and the chin. And we're also going to do that across the paws as well, just adding a small highlight just at the very edge of some of these dwarf skin areas, right across the miniature and all the areas that we added it here. We're going to then go back to dwarf skin, and with diluted dwarf skin we're just going to take it pure strength and highlight all of the wing areas that are kind of the highest detail areas, all along the spine here, cross sections here on the knuckle, kind of where the claw meets, just to add a little bit more of an extreme highlight on those areas. Now with some bone white, we're going to go ahead and dry brush that onto all the spikes again. And this is just going to bring out that kind of lighter highlight and just bring them back up to a cool, kind of sharp looking color. We're going to do it on the spikes. We're also going to do it across the spikes along kind of around his mane, around the head, and we're also going to do that on the claws as well. Now we're going to go ahead and add kind of some coloration to the edge of the wings, as you can see kind of in the source material in the Monsters manual. We're going to take some heavy sienna, and we're just going to kind of dry brush slash overbrush it along the edge of the wing. Now an overbrush is just a slightly wetter dry brush so that you're applying more paint to the surface as you go, and we're just going to streak it across the wing like so, just to give it a bit of a darker kind of tinge and edge to it. Next we're going to use some heavy sienna, just like we did for the wings, but now we're going to dilute it just a touch so that it flows a little bit better, and we're going to stipple on some stripes along its leg. And by stippling I mean just dabbing it along so that it looks actually like it's a natural sort of stripe on its fur rather than just a straight unnatural looking stripe across. And so we're just going to continue to do this along the legs and along the back as well. And the final detail on the Manticore itself is to just add a little bit of pale yellow to its eyes, like that. And then we're going to add a little pupil using heavy sienna as well, right in the middle, like so. Final step for the entire Manticore is, of course, to paint its base. We're going to go ahead and use heavy sienna for that and cover the entire base in a solid coat. And then the last step is to take some tan and do a light dry brush across the base. And we're just trying to catch some of that stone texture just to give it a little bit of a highlight. And that's it on the Manticore.
Thanks for joining us for another WizKids paint event with Realmsmith and Vallejo. Once you're done painting your Manticore, make sure you take a picture of it and then you post it on socials and you tag Dungeons & Dragons, WizKids, Vallejo, and Realmsmith. We'll see you again soon.